It's good to be talking about Anambra State, and it's also good to be counting down to the elections on Saturday. 4 more days to go. For some people, it's feverish. For some, it's wait and see. For some, a lot of talking points. But there is one thing that got me thinking this afternoon when I heard that the total number of voters expected to vote in this election is 2.8 million. Now, that's a bit surprising for me because I would have expected the figure to be a bit higher than 2.8 million. Why is that so? I'll tell you in a moment. Because in 2001, we had 2.466 and some thousand. So I would have expected that from in 4 years' time, we should be having more than 400,000 people registering or changing their location and all that. But not to worry. Why I don't want to go straight to that comparison is because I'm a bit scared. In 2021, out of 2.46 million people, registered voters, we are just a little above 10% who voted for that election. So we're talking about 200 and something thousand people. That's why I don't want to compare, so that I don't jinx this election and we begin to talk about 10% of voters again. Remember, I was talking last week with Dr. Dennis Ekemezie, and our focus was on voter apathy. Today we are going to talk about that and some other issues. Good afternoon, Dennis.
Good afternoon, sir.
Mayoga, welcome to Southeast News.
I'm still lawyer, sir.
Since I'm not a politician, well, let's look at it.
I'm not involved, sir.
Now, Dennis is a man of many parts. So I always enjoy when he introduces himself. But Dennis, before you do that, I want you to put at the back of your mind the current figure in terms of those people that are going to vote on Saturday. So let's start with the introduction and then we get straight to business.
Well, you prefer me to introduce myself as Dr. Dennis Ekemezie, Chief Research Fellow and Analyst in Universal Center for Community Dialogue. I think you like that one.
I like that one, and I have not forgotten the part that when it comes to public relations, you're also a guru. So,
Well, thank you very much.
now, Dennis, looking at a figure of 2.8 million and imagining if voter apathy does not come into the calculations, we should be having an election that people of Anambra State will be proud of. Because if you have 2.8 million voters going to say, A is our governor, it means Anambra State really voted. What is your take on that?
Well, I think the umpire I think particularly has released the number of voters that will vote. And maybe we were surprised, but I still recall that there was some adjustment what they said the other time, that there were some either wrong registration or multiple registrations and all this and that, and when they updated the register, and some of the names were cancelled or something of that nature. Well, it's a normal thing in the political process, because whilst most people want to do the right thing, some others will want to do the wrong one, or the other one that will benefit them more. I think that is the bottom line. And coming to your fear, well, I think with the situation on the ground now, that we would have a larger number of people that will come out to vote. One, we must also not also remove the incidence of vote buying. Of course, I sent you some of the messages that were going around, that it has not been controlled, or it may not be controlled. However, we know that security agents by yesterday, during the signing of peace accord, were instructed to try as much as possible to minimize and then maybe apprehend or arrest those people buying vote and equally those selling. Because if you don't apprehend the seller, is it the buyer that you apprehend? And it's the seller that is more important because it's the seller that the buyer that has the seller that has the money. And then the issue is, where is the money? How do you get the money? The buyer will say, this is part of our national cake that I need also to have my own share. So I think this is part of what is going on now, mirroring around the state that most people will come out. Let me get my own this time. Of course, you know, by midnight tomorrow, campaign will stop. However, politicians are not, or candidates are not prevented from doing their own side of a snake campaign.
No, it's not midnight. It's not midnight tomorrow. It's 24 hours before election.
Okay, yeah, on Friday.
That's on Friday.
There's still time to mobilize there. And I must tell you, I'm impressed. Anambra is charged. People know that something is happening. And everywhere, of course, we are having that truly, the world democracy is better than the military government, because there are exchange of ideas, entertainment, and every other thing, and people are deeply engaged. Those people, the dancers, the drivers. In fact, in most cases, you will not see commercial vehicles that will take you to some of these places. So you see full engagement of the people in the process, so that more people will participate, and then more people will get something. Even people selling hawkers also having a few there. So Anambra is charged with full of activities because of November 8th election. I think it's a welcome development. That's the situation on the ground.
Okay, I think there's one aspect that I think is enjoyable, the part where you said they are going around, activities picked up just like that, and something seems to be happening in Anambra, because when the campaign started earlier, there was this lackluster attitude and people were wondering what was happening. But it does appear now that the campaigns have left the pages of social media and it's now really happening. Communities can feel the impact. Now, Dennis, something struck me of all the things you sent to me that gave us a picture of what is happening in Anambra. Why is it that politicians are looking for ways to pull a wool over the eyes of security men when it comes to vote buying?
Well, the saying is that you can't kill the Beatles. I think you know that adage. And you are dealing with intelligent people in the society. I think politicians are smart people. Part of it is that they always devise the way to circumvent the situation and then come successful. I think that's the situation. And as I earlier said, activities are going on, meeting for meeting and meeting on meeting. And then something is exchanges are going on, and I think for now people have embraced the process, and let them see what they will get before the time is up. And it's part of that situation. They say they're envisaging. Let me get part of that national cake,
so,
and then tomorrow we'll talk of itself.
So your mercantile theory is now cutting across all sectors, all segments, no exception.
Yeah.
Go ahead, sir.
No, I said that is part of the exchange. I said now the demand and supply we noted earlier, the buyer and the seller, and then I think by this time suppliers are getting more ready to supply, and that is the supply means as we noted the other time. Of course, evidently, they have to show My daddy told me that in police in those days that evidence is a person where they will matter not by telling. So you have to show your what do you call it, your voter's card, PVC, and then you get a ledger largesse in the system. If you don't have it, well, maybe you get it, but principally what they normally do now is that you have to show evidence that you are a voter.
Now, okay, there is something that struck me. There was this election that took place in Port Harcourt, River State, recently, when the sole administrator was in charge. And I discovered that at a particular polling booth, while they were voting, they were showing not just not just where they stamped, but you could see the party and everything. It was glaring. And the question I was asking was, is that not a way of encouraging people to buy votes? Because it's supposed to be a secret ballot. So if you can show who you voted for at the polling booth, it means you are only confirming that the deed is done. How can we stop this?
Well, you see, it's now open secret. You do it secretly and you display it openly. That is what is it fella that calls it open
and close.
I think it's a fella that sang the song, and it's part of that process that you must show evidence of what you have done, so that you'll be remunerated, you'll be given something. And I think in some places now, that's part of what we are trying to look at, whether they are going to use POS. You know, the other people are also use POS on the highway. So maybe they will also introduce the use of POS, so that when you are, of course, you know, e-payment, when you vote, then when you indicate, you go to another place and then indicate your number, and then money will be transferred. So at times you may not even see cash this time, but you see a lot of transfers. Of course, there may be incidents of some people not getting their money, but I think most of them will believe they give us cash. Of course. That is the situation on the ground. Community this time, well, we pray, but it may not be so successful, because what people need now is money for hand, back for ground.
But,
or back for ground first, you vote, and then if you indicate, then we'll give you something. So the process is getting funny, let me use that word, and then maybe in future we'll know how to control it. For now, we hope that the security agents, as they were instructed yesterday, we do as they were instructed to do.
I find it difficult to understand the direction Nigeria is moving towards. I say that because you, the one buying the votes and the one selling the votes, you know that in the next 4 years, you will not even be able or be in a position to lay claim to anything, given that you sold your rights. What should have been your mandate to stand up and say, we voted you in? You can't say that because you collected money. So when you have a case like what happened some few weeks back, when Ogidi was flooded and other parts of Anambra were flooded, nobody could really stand up and say, this job must be done because we are your employers. We voted you to serve us. So why are we missing the point? The entire point of democracy. Why are we missing it?
Well, this 60 years or 65 years of independence and maybe 25 years of sustainable democracy in Nigeria, I think there's still time for amendments to pass through this rigors of what we called earlier primitive capital accumulation. intervention on the side of the stakeholders and the side of structure holders, and among other things, on the generality of the citizenry. Because we are talking in terms of patriotism and being patriotic or not being patriotic. The issue is stomach infrastructure, because of the prevailing economic situation in the country. Stomach infrastructure is controlling the system. And then you have to get something before you be able to
do something.
What do they call the right thing? I think as the time goes on, it boils down part of that theory I normally say that when corruption corrupts corruption will stop. So when vote buying, of course, I think there's something I sent you that even people are projecting that about 50,000 naira will be spent in buying votes this time.
Yes.
Because it will go to the highest bidder. And I think most people are looking for that, and most of the candidates will be prepared to do that because it's a high contest. As I told you, the stage is surcharged. People are becoming more aware, and then people are enthusiastic, even going around. There are meetings both in the urban areas and the rural areas. So the important thing at the boil down is that, you've gone on our behalf or your own behalf to National Assembly or to anywhere. You've gotten the money. Come back and give us our own. I think that's what people are now saying. This is our time. So whether our vote counts by vote buying or by our own patriotic voting, the issue is that electoral process is on.
Well, it's a sad commentary, but I am not going to give up on the fact that change can certainly come.
Yes.
Now, Dennis, let me move you away from the vote buying issue, because that alone shows that there may be apathy. Because if, for example, you get to a polling booth and all the votes have been bought, and you just see people coming to vote and collecting, whether via alerts or POS, whatever form, and you are just there thinking about what you have lost as a community, there'll be no progress. But that aside, almost in every election, it is easy to say a peace accord should be signed. But in all the same elections, you hear about ballot box snatching. You hear about thugs reigning supreme in some areas. You hear about different types of electoral offenses. So, what is the significance of this peace accord being signed by candidates? Is it just a matter of photo ops? What is it?
Well, it's part of the fulfillment of we have done it. It's part of that process of conscientizing and part of act of patriotism per se. By implementation also, you see that it's just a mere ceremonial function. Gathering people together, signing the accord, and then doing the photo shots, and then the media will take over. At the end of it, the enforcement, as some decrees orders were given yesterday, well, what we are waiting is for the enforcement. Let's calculate that by at the end of the election that a lot of arrests will be made either for those selling the votes and then those buying, or maybe some act of electoral malpractices or others. But I think this time that there's going to be minimal election violence. I think that there's going to be, because more people are now becoming conscious of their being, of their personality. And of course, the number of security agents that will be around may not warrant, even though some of them will come with the buttons and some will come with nothing. And then when you ask, they say no. we are not advised or directed to engage in warfare. So it's a pure situation of wait and see, and then we know again what we are going to do. As we normally say, when we reach the bridge, we know how to cross it. That day is still very far.
Well, for people who really want to vote, Saturday is just less than 24 hours away, because every meeting that is holding right now in different wards, different communities, is a pointer to the fact that Saturday election is going to be a landmark election. But the issues are still there. The accord has been signed. Now, let's be very honest with ourselves. The candidates all have their strategies, apart from vote buying, on how to win different elections at different polling booths. Although we pray for an election that is free, fair, and credible. And we are trusting INEC to deliver on that. But the process seems to be engrossed in a system that is not clear. What do I mean by that? From what is going on in various communities in Anambra State right now, you will know that there is an open system of vote buying. Although those responsible for ensuring that the law takes place, or enforcement, the better word is enforcement, are doing practically nothing about it. They are just waiting for election day while the actual crime is being committed right now. And it's going to go on up to the election day. So, how are we sure that as you give an open ticket to the purchase of votes, or by various means of inducement, as it's ongoing now in Anambra, that it will not lead to thugs snatching ballots? Because if you feel that, you gave an idea of a price, 50,000. You remember, you mentioned 50,000, that votes can sell as high as 50,000 for a vote, depending on the area. Okay. Now, if you're going to think in that terms, what about those who now feel that after all they have paid out, they are losing a particular polling booth that is relevant to your candidate? Won't there be thuggery? Won't there be violence? So how do we really get those who should enforce to understand that their job started before today to get this thing done, and quickly too?
Well, I think there's another concept that came in either by last week or this week in Anambra State. The issue of motivation and not vote buying. I think maybe you might have had it, that people are being motivated through such gift items and other things, so that they will be encouraged to come out and vote.
Okay,
there's something like that, motivation.
As a learner in politics and the Nigerian system of democracy, I want to understand the difference between motivation and vote buying.
Well, that's what we are still researching, because I said it's a new concept. So we have to put it, test it, and know how it functions, whether it's motivation or whether it is against the rule to motivate on such, through such means. So it's not yet clear that concept until to be able to analyze scientifically and can come up with the real message he wants to convey. More importantly, after the election. Because we now try to know scientifically whether the motivation worked positively or negatively. I think that's the angle where we will put it this time, and then be able to wait till after the election, so that it will be analyzed how such motivation was able to achieve a dividend or result, a positive result between the motivator and the motivatee. I think that's where we'll place it this time.
Well, Dennis, before I let you go, let me just ask, What do you think Saturday, 8th of November, would be like?
Well, it will be an epoch-making day, and the election will be a landmark. And I know the new INEC chairman, we are going to test run him this time. Anambra is going to be the pathfinder to test him as a litmus paper, and then from his accomplishment in this election, we tell Nigerians the further road to follow or where to go again. I think that's where let's give him that benefit of doubt, and then his staff, both ad hoc and permanent ones, let's give them that the confidence that they will deliver as they promise, so that by Saturday, Sunday, the result will come out and the other incidences will happen. We will now be able to evaluate the election of Anambra State vis-a-vis the conduct of and the character of the electoral empire.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Dennis Ekemezie. Thank you for coming on. Remember last week I did say as we progress, even on election day, we should have this conversation with you and others. I know with you and others, so that we can really gauge and understand the temperature of the election in Anambra State on 8th November. Thank you. It's been a pleasure having you.
Well, we're full soldiers. This is what we have been doing since 1989. So it's a normal thing for us. Only that we will also request you to pray for us, because this time, well, we need prayers.
Prayers definitely would offer prayers. All right, thank you very much. And that's been Dr. Dennis Ekemezie. I am Barry Kumado. Thank you very much for staying on with us on Southeast News. We'll be here tomorrow.